Hello, happy Wednesday. Welcome back to another episode of So Into That, the podcast where we get to chat all about the things that we are really into right now. This week's guest freaking rocks, but we'll get into it in a minute because what I first need to talk about with you guys is what a week it's been. Last Wednesday, I announced that my cookbook, What to Cook When You Don't Feel Like Cooking, was available for pre-sale, and you guys showed the F up. I thought, I know that pre-sales are really important as an author. It's important so that your publisher knows how many to order. It's important so that book accounts, Barnes and Noble can know, like, how much should we like host Caroline for a book tour? Like, it's important for, as you all know, my dream is to get on the Today Show on launch day for this. Grew up with the Today Show. It's just what I want. I'm dying to get on there and share this book with the world. It's important so that I can go to them and be like, hey, Today Show, I know I've pitched myself 7 times already, but just want to let you know that pre-sale is going really well. So it's important for so many reasons. I know that as an author. I didn't know that you guys would know that. I don't even know if you guys do know that, or if you just were like, let's support this book in any way we can. But you guys showed the F up. It jumped. I had podcast interviews all day last Wednesday when I announced this. When I went into podcast interviews, it was like number 500 on the Amazon charts. And my editor was like, this is great news. Like, all of Amazon, number 500. I was like, sick. 500, baby. By the time I got out of my interviews at 4 p.m., it was like number 14. And she was like, Caroline, this is amazing. And I was like, whoa, okay, amazing. And all of you guys were sending me screenshots of your pre-sale, of your orders, and the nicest notes. And I was amped. By the time I got off my flight, so I drove to LAX, got off my flight in Monterey last Wednesday, 7 days ago. And the book was like number 1 across overall cookbooks. The number one cookbook. That's what it was. Like, in terms of, volume of orders that day. And it was the number 3 overall book on Amazon. And I was like, what the heck? And my entire team was like, what the heck? And that is the power of you guys. You guys are genuinely the most amazing community in the world. I feel like we have such a group of kind, generous, supportive, like-minded humans who have surrounded me and lifted me up, and I just feel like overwhelmed with the support. Thank you. I genuinely, if there's anything I can ever do for any of you, let me know, which is a big offer going your way, and I really mean it. George is like, I was like, I want to just tell them, do anything for them. George is like, okay, there's a lot more of them than there are of you, but I mean it. I just feel so supported, and it's a really incredible feeling. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for making this book a success already. It's insane. Definitely a lot more wood to chop. Gotta sell a whole lot more books, but it was a strong first week, and I just thank you guys so much for that. We just got back from Chapel Hill. We spent the weekend in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. George and I both went to UNC Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina. That's where we met. It is also where my parents met. My grandparents went there. Like, we are a legacy North UNC family. But George and I went there. I was a freshman. He was a junior when we met. If you listened to last week's episode, you know a lot of details about our love story. But Chapel Hill is just such a happy place for us. We spent the weekend. He was there. George was a Moorhead scholar, which means nothing if you are like live outside of the Southeast, but if you are Southern, you might be familiar with it. It's like a really, really cool, impressive, I got to know a lot more about it this weekend, scholarship program, full ride to UNC, plus, like lots of cool summer opportunities and other really, really interesting, compelling opportunities that they present to their scholars. We spent the weekend. George had some stuff. George did a few cool things with the scholarship program over the weekend. I had lunch with my friend Capel and Julianne. My sister came. I walked like 10 miles a day because it's just the most beautiful town and campus. And we like went on, a bunch of dates and spent a lot of time together. It was really fun to be back there without kids. It also has made us want to get there with our kids. it was so cute to see like all the little kids running around in their UNC jerseys and at the game and before the game at the Carolina Inn, which is this big historic inn that's kind of nestled into campus. It was really fun to be back. We had not been back in 12 years, which like we just don't know how that happened. Where did the time go? But it was so much fun to be back. It's such a lovely, lovely place. And we just had an absolute blast. So hoping to get back more often now that we've rekindled our Chapel Hill love. Guys, this week's guest is really exciting. It was like I was fangirling hard when she walked into the studio. Today's guest is Jessa Hastings, author of the Magnolia Park series. Her name's actually Jessie, as you'll find out. On the surface, these books are about like socialites in London, but as you get into them, the depth of the characters, the intricacies of their relationship like really blossoms and emerges. The writing is absolutely beautiful, and these books are truly a genre of their own, as you'll hear us discuss. They're not romance. They're not exactly a coming-of-age story. There's so many things at once, which is why they're so addictive, and so many people are completely obsessed with this series. Whether you've read them or not, there are like some spoiler alerts in here, but like nothing that if you haven't read them, you're going to remember and it's going to like taint your reading of them. So I think you can listen either way. If you are a lover of the Magnolia Parks universe, you will love this inside look into Jessie's life and how these books came about. And we also do get into some of the characters a little bit and a few spoilers. But if you haven't read them and you don't plan to read them, Jessie is just a really fascinating character, so accomplished. And she is such a great example of if you believe in your own project, it will succeed. Like if you will find the audience for what you are trying to put out into the world, even if the world is telling you that you're not doing it the right way, you're not doing it by the playbook. She has written her own rules for success, and it's such an inspirational story. So I'm very excited for you all to hear this conversation with Jessie Hastings.
Jessa Hastings, welcome to So Into That.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. First of all, I did my research, and it is my understanding that you are actually a Jessie. Like that's what you go by.
Yes, it's a really funny story. So Jessa was my husband's very like private pet name for me. Like he would call me that, and like my two best friends would call me Jessa.
Okay.
And it was like a long story of his name is Benjamin, and when we first started dating like 11 years ago, and I realized that you don't spell Benjamin Benjamin, but you spell it Benjamin.
Yeah.
I thought it was so funny, and so started calling him Benja, and that stuck.
Benja.
And then he started calling me Jessa just to kind of like annoy me.
Yeah.
But then it stuck as well, but in this very private circle. And when we were buying my website domain for my author name, Jessie Hastings wasn't available, but Jessa Hastings was. And my husband and his brother were like yelling at me because I was taking so long. And they were like, just pick a name, pick a name. And I was like, fine, Jessa. And now it will still throw me when people I don't know are like, Jessa. And I'm like, ha.
Okay. I have to tell you something. I literally have the exact same story.
Really?
I'm Caroline.
Yeah.
My name on the internet is Caro because Caroline Chambers was not available. And my best friends from boarding school all call me Caro. Like my best people call me Caro.
Right.
But even my husband, George, like he goes Caro or Caroline. Like, but my best friends, my mom, but only like, the 8 closest people in my life call me Caro. And now, same exact freaking story. It is my public name. Like people are always like, do I call you Caro or Caroline? And I'm like, whatever you like.
Yeah.
My whole public, like I'm writing my next cookbook comes out soon, and it was like this big debate with my publishing team, like, do we put Caro or Caroline? And we went with Caroline.
There you go. Okay.
I was like,
You're doing a rebrand?
My name?
Yeah.
It's just maybe my name. Like,
it's really
my
funny.
name instead of my nickname. Because you're a Jessica.
I'm a Jessica.
But that's just like not your name.
I've never been called that. It was Jessie growing up.
Yeah.
Everyone knew me as Jessie Hastings. And then there were like 3 people that called me Jessa. And now everyone calls me Jessa.
Yeah.
And it's still funny to me.
Well, Jessie Hastings, for everyone listening who does not know her, first of all, have I taught you nothing? All of anyone who follows me on Instagram or follows my newsletter, What to Cook We Don't Feel Like Cooking, has heard me wax poetic about the Magnolia Parks universe. I am a super fan. I'm new to the universe. I only discovered it. It's like one of those things is, when something's been on your TBR for so long and you finally read it and you're like, what the fuck was I doing for so long? That's the Magnolia Parks universe for me. I think I started reading it like December 1st.
Oh, wow. You're really new.
Oh, I'm new
okay.
to the universe. I think I started reading. And honestly, I feel so lucky because I think the hardest part about being I love series more than anything else.
Oh, yeah. But the waiting.
The development. Everything is better about a series, right?
Yeah.
But the waiting.
Yeah.
The waiting kills me. So I finished 4 maybe a month ago. And I was like, what? And I thought that there were only 5 total coming. So I was like, oh, thank God, only 1 more. And now I have to wait for 2
Yeah, you have 2 more.
So
it's a ways away, too. I'm really sorry.
Jessa Hastings is the author of these fabulous books, the Magnolia Parks universe that I've talked about so much. Do you want to give us, I don't want to go like too deep into who everyone is, all the characters, because I really want to talk about Jessie, not the box set more today. But do you want to just give us like a brief overview of these books and what they're about?
Yeah.
I know that's hard.
Yeah, that is hard.
Because it's a series.
It's kind of like following the messy and complicated love lives of like 5 characters, and they're all intertwined, and they grew up together. They went to boarding school together. Set in England, high society. I don't know. I don't read a lot of the books that it's often kind of like paired with.
Ooh, what's it paired with?
Well, it's just kind of like bracketed as romance, and I feel like that sets it up in a funny space.
It's so not
because
romance.
It's not romantic.
I mean,
it is romantic, but it's not romantic. And
it's
I feel
also so much about like platonic love.
Yeah,
too.
there's a
like,
ton of like friend vibes and
love.
like friends as family and
found family.
Yeah, I think it's a real kind of like coming of age story, I guess, in a lot of ways, and it's a lot of like dealing with your trauma and your hurt story. So it's not, I don't know. I wouldn't say myself, every time I see it like categorized as a romance, my publishers do it, I'm always a bit like, well, you're the professionals. But I wouldn't do that.
Like on Amazon, what is it under? Or on Barnes & Noble?
Contemporary romance on Amazon. But then also it is, I do see really like funny ones like on Amazon. Because you could do multiple characters. Niche. Yes, it's really niche. Like it was like the most recent one, Into the Dark, I saw was like #1 in the travel and leisure category. And I was like, for what?
Absolutely. Like, they do travel. They do travel. Yes.
They do travel. But
as I told you, I have a cookbook coming out in August. And I've seen these, and more power to them, the authors who really niche down their thing, and then they get to be #1. Like, fuck yeah, you be #1. But I'm like, how can I niche down
I
my
know.
cookbook so much that I am
so
#1 in travel and leisure? I'm like, okay, I talked about travel in one of the head notes of these.
It was so funny. I had another
like,
book.
What?
I had another one called Never, which came out in December. And that was
just came out in December.
Yeah, that came out in December.
Oh, so I'm not that behind on that one.
No. That one just came out in December, and I thought I saw that was like #1 in occult and supernatural, and I was like,
stop.
Okay. It's not about that at all, but fine.
But like, fine.
Thank you.
More eyes, more eyeballs. I love it. Okay, so that is who Jessa is at its base core, but we're going to find out a little bit more about you today. One of the things I want to talk about you off the top is my understanding is that Magnolia Parks was at first self-published.
Yeah.
And now I was just looking as I finished book 5 last night.
Did you?
Yes, which was not even like, I obviously was going to finish it, like read it as fast as possible. It just came out 2 weeks ago. But I thought it was very poetic that I finished it before getting to chat with you. But as I finished, it, flashes up Potter, which is one of the biggest, most impressive, well-known publishing houses right now.
Yeah.
Tell me about self-publishing. Did you first try to get a book deal and not succeed? Did you want to go the self-publishing route? Talk to us about that, because now you have this
it was a really
successful series.
A crazy journey that one was. I like an earlier iteration of Magnolia kind of actualized probably around 7 or 8 years ago, and I wrote it pretty quickly. Like, I'm pretty fast, and I wrote Magnolia 1, Magnolia 2, and Daisy 1 all in like very quick succession. And then did Magnolia 3 after that. So I always kind of knew a loose formation of it, and then started kind of trying to place it. And it was...
So you wrote 4 books before you even tried to
do anything. But it was very quick. Like, I'm a very quick writer.
This was months, right? Like 1 month you wrote one, the next month.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah. And then I went from there. I would try and like see which agents were accepting things, and I sent it out to people, and I'd get like a little bit of a way, and they'd kind of be like, oh, we really like it, but we don't know what we do with it. We don't know where we place it. It's a little bit long, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. Pretty discouraged, pretty devastated.
Oh, yeah.
And then like kind of left things for a while, tried to work on something else, and then Magnolia and BJ started really kind of like really being in my head again.
So you just kind of wrote these 4 books. Nobody was bagging what you were scanning, and you just left.
And I was kind of like, I had this feeling at one point very early on that like it would change my life, and so I was kind of like, yeah, like this is gonna work out at some point. If it's meant to be, it'll be kind of.
And you just knew it's gonna be at some point.
At some point, I was like, I think it's good, and I could tell from like the few people that I showed it to, who I had shown other things to in the past, their reaction was like feverish in the way that it now has gone in a big scale.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, that is different, I guess. And so I kind of left it, was very, in retrospect, grateful for like the gap in the time, because then it was like end of 2020. I think like October, November 2020, they just really started, like I was starting to dream about them again. And I knew
literally dream like in your
in my sleep. Yeah. Like I was like dreaming of them. And I was like, oh, I know what I need to do now. Picked it up, like rewrote book 1 from like start to finish. I didn't edit it. I just wrote it again. And that probably took a month. And then I did The Long Way Home the month after. And then I did Daisy 1 the month after. And just like in very quick succession. And I looked at it and I knew, oh, like that's it. Like I knew straight away. I was like,
now the world's ready for these.
That's what it is. It was a different iteration than the first one, but I knew that that's what it was. And so I went down the like, we'll do self-publishing. And there was like, took it to an editor, and this editor, like there's this website called, well, I forget what it's called. It's like a writing version of like Fiverr. So it's like all of these professionals, and you have to have certain qualifications to be like an editor on there or whatever. And so I used an editor from there, and he sent it back, and it was like he made BJ like the flattest, like most regular, almost kind of sounded like a woman, like really just sort of pocketed. It just kind of sounded like everything else, which is fine if you like. Lots of people. Well, I don't know. Lots of people write in a. There's a tone in like women's fiction that tends to be, and I don't ascribe to like women's fiction. I think all fiction is fiction's fiction.
Sure.
Yeah, but like in the area that I think people were trying to pocket me, and there's like often a tone, and the men talk a certain way and the women talk a certain way, and it's kind of like a bit ambiguous, like they all sort of sound the same. And that's what he did, and he cut down like 50,000 words, and I was
50,000 words.
And I was so heartbroken. And I cried for like 2 weeks, and then at one point I was like, fuck it, like I think he's wrong, I'm gonna back myself in, and I added like another 10,000 words just to him, and then
middle fingers up.
And then
it's not working for me, man. And he was just a guy who you had hired, and you had paid your own money.
Yeah.
And that's so hard, because you paid for this advice, and then you said middle fingers up. That's not going to work.
And I was like, Magnolia. Oh. And I was trying very hard to be like open-minded, because I wanted it to work.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I took what I could from it, and then I was like, no, I think you're wrong. I'm going to see what happens. Mm-hmm. And then we released it ourselves, and it went really well in this like sort of grounds roots grassroots, groundswell, grassroots, whatever it is.
Grassroots. You got it.
That kind of way. And it had
Wait,
that
so you
same,
released it what, like on Amazon?
on Kindle.
How did you create buzz for it? How did you get people to read it?
I don't
How?
know. So we kind of went in with this mindset of like, we put a lot of money into it for like advertising. So we did like a big photo shoot, and it just so happened that at the time that I was wanting to release the book, my husband's brother and one of his best friends launched like a marketing company, I guess. And so I became like their pet project.
Yes.
And so they do everything to like absolute perfection. Avenue Creative had this perfect. And so they got the vision. We did this big photo shoot, paid for it all. And then really I released it on Instagram. I didn't have a very big Instagram following. I would have had like, I don't know, 2,000 followers, like something regular. And it just went well from there. And I don't know.
When did you release it?
Magnolia 1 came out July 2021.
Okay.
And then it went viral. The series went viral in July 2022 when The Long Way Home came out.
Long Way Home is
book 3.
Yeah, book 3.
The book numbers are all crazy in my head. But yeah, Daisy 1 came out in December 2021.
So for listeners who haven't read them, it goes
Magnolia.
They're all the Magnolia Parks universe, but first it's Magnolia and then Daisy and then Magnolia and then Daisy and then Magnolia. And then now
Daisy
we are waiting
Daisy.
on 2 Daisy books to come out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why we're like Magnolia 1, Magnolia 2.
Yeah. So Magnolia, if you haven't read them, it would be best to read them in that order, or else it kind of like spoils it.
Wait, in which order?
In the order of Magnolia 1, Daisy 1, Magnolia 2, Daisy 2, Magnolia 3, Daisy 3.
Jesse, when I first started reading these,
Did someone tell you to do the other way?
I post my book recommendations in real time, like on my Instagram. I'm sure it does. And I posted like, I just read Magnolia 1, and I just cut you off from talking about how you got the book deal, but we'll go back to that. But I posted about, I just read Magnolia 1, and some people were like, just skip Daisy's book and go straight to Magnolia 2. And I was like, oh, really? Because, at that point, you don't care who Daisy is.
Right.
You'd have never heard of her.
Yeah.
You're dying to find out what happens next with Magnolia BJ. And I was like, okay, maybe I will. And then I think it like came up in Libby, the next Daisy book. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to read it. If I had skipped Daisy?
No, it would be terrible. Because it's like a primer. They
have no idea, because the books do go on in order. Like, if you don't know what you've missed, you don't know, but you have missed all of this backstory.
Yeah, you have, and it's not set up well, because like Magnolia primes for Daisy. Yes. Daisy 1 primes for Magnolia 2. Like everyone's,
they are so intertwined. I feel so bad for people who have skipped. And also Daisy rocks.
Yeah, I know. Okay. She's like the sensible one.
She's the sensible one.
She's she's emotionally volatile, but she's more sensible than Magnolia, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I know. She's just done something that I'm so mad at her for in book 5. So
yes.
Okay. You self-publish. It's a year of, are you feeling successful in that first year from July 21 to 22?
I mean, no, because I'm very bad at numbers. So numbers don't mean anything to me, even when they're good.
Sure.
So my husband was pleased, and he was kind of like, yeah, these are good numbers. And I knew that they were like good numbers for self-publishing. Like in the first week of Magnolia's release, I sold what most self-published authors do in like the lifetime of a book. So I knew that it did okay.
Yeah.
But self-published numbers aren't traditionally great. And then we just sort of it did have that very like that feverishness from the start. People were really like pedantic and obsessive with the characters really quickly, obviously in a much smaller capacity. And then I don't really know what happened. It was the funniest thing now that I do have publishers. It's that number one question. They're always like, what happened? Yeah. What did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. It just happened. Like it was like July 2022. We were in Disney World. I will never forget it. It was so funny. And we were just watching the numbers, like the Kindle number, not I guess
Yeah,
it's Kindle
your
Unlimited.
sales,
Yeah, but it's like the physical ones. And we were watching like in the bookshelf in the back, like the spike. And Ben and I sitting on our hotel bed and we were like, that's weird. Like, what's going on? And I don't know to this day. My best bet is like, I think a lot of micro influencers maybe started picking it up at the same time, and they all just started talking about it.
You can't find like one big viral video.
There wasn't a big we don't have any clue of like a big viral video. There's one YouTuber whose name is Lachlan, and she posted a video, and it was so funny, and that was the first one I saw of someone that was like just completely random, like out of pocket.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have a massive following. She has a really active following, but it's not like, you know, what's her face with like millions and millions of followers.
Yeah.
But yeah, like she's the one in my head that I'm like, hers was so funny. And we were sitting there like my father-in-law like dying laughing over this girl's video on YouTube. And we were like, oh, this is so strange. Like what's going on? But I don't know. I think it was the micro influencers. Yeah.
Okay, so July 21, 3 books are out.
July 2022.
Sorry, July
3
22.
books are out. Yeah.
3 books are out.
Yeah.
Are you, I know when we first started this journey, you kind of wrote through 4 all in a row. Are you now caught up? Have all of these books been written?
At that point in time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And The Great Undoing would have been written.
Book 4.
That's book 4 that came out that December. And that would have been written because in the gap between July 2022 and like December 2022, I guess, like a lot changed.
Yeah.
And then it was like that July 2022, by August, I had offers from like pretty much every major publishing deal. They were like,
this is when they noticed.
That was when they kind of came out of the woodworks.
Did you contact a single one of them, or did they all come?
Came into my DMs.
Yeah.
And
were you like, oh, hey, I was in your DMs 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
It was so funny and amazing. And I had, a lot of conversations with a lot of people. And then signed with Orion, who are like a part of Hachette. And then I signed with an agent after that. Yeah.
Ooh.
So
good for you.
Good for me.
Yeah. Good job.
I had a lawyer though. He was was like my guy.
Yes.
And then it's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, are all of the remaining 2 books written?
No.
Okay, so here's my question. Yeah. Since this fated moment in July 2022, I don't go on TikTok. It's a spooky place for me. But I scooped to see like what you type in Magnolia Parks on TikTok and it's
crazy.
A maelstrom. I mean, like you said, people are feverish. People are addicted to these people. I feel so like these people. I know these characters because you do an incredible job of building this world. And people become very like territorial and like
they sure do.
like they know what's best.
Yeah.
For these characters who literally only you know what's best, or maybe what's best isn't the right word, but what's gonna freaking happen. You are the puppeteer.
Yeah.
And these are your puppets, and people get angry.
Yeah, they get into
They are like, she wasn't supposed to end up with him. She was supposed to. Okay, so here's my question. Since you have not finished these books yet, do you find yourself getting affected by what people want?
No.
How?
Not at all. I think it's...
Also, do you even look at it?
I look at it less and less. Yeah. Where it is tricky is like people are aggressive about it to me in my DMs. So they'll like come at me privately.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God.
Daily, actually. And so that's exhausting. But it is really funny that they do that because
funny is one word for what that is.
It's such a strange experience for sure. But no, it hasn't affected it at all. The way that I've written these stories is like they feel so external to me, and they are like It feels like I'm just writing what I'm being told to write. And so I have like a very, like a really firm story compass of like, I know when it's what I would want versus what actually would happen in the story.
Wow.
And there's like so many things, especially with BJ in the first book, that
Yes.
were I choosing what he would do, he would not have done half of the stuff that he does in the book. That's not what I want. He's my favorite character. I didn't want that for him.
No.
But it was just like true to him. And so I had to write it. And I was very impacted as a young reader when an author of a very big series said that she didn't want to kill off any of her characters because she loved them too much. And I was like, oh, like you could tell that there was like, it wasn't really what the story wanted it to do. And I really kind of like made this deal in my head that I was always going to
be true to them.
What, like I'm going to be loyal to the story above the character no matter what.
Wow.
And so I know what the story is.
Yes.
And I mean, when these people say these things to me, I'm like, that's cool. Like, it's not your story. It's not even my story. So it's not even like I'm right now. But it's like, I don't feel like it's my story. And if you're looking at it in an overarching way, like the story is very plain and simple of what the actual story is for some of the characters, most of the characters. And so, yeah, I'm like, I wish they would be a little less
unkind.
Yeah.
Aggressive?
Of so many, there are so many ways to put that. Yeah, I wish that there's a particular sect of the readers that, for the most part, I should say, they're beautiful. Like I have had so many comments from like when I've done like signings or whatever, girls will be like, I have to say, like, I go to a lot of book signings. Your readers are always like the nicest ones. They're so sweet. They're so kind. As a general rule of thumb, they're really, really beautiful group of people. But then there are just a couple that are like extra passionate and really like, and they're mean to the other people that don't think the same things as them.
Yuck.
And so that's tricky to navigate, but it actually hasn't affected how I write.
Yeah. When you say, I want to kind of drill more into when you talk about this isn't my story, I'm just the person telling this story. That sounds almost like biblical in a sense. Like it sounds like you are like this conduit for a story.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
And so what does that actually look like on a logistical basis of like you getting this down on paper? Are you like out on a walk with your two kids and like suddenly the next chapter or like a piece of their past comes to you and it's just kind of
most of the time with writing for any book with me, it will usually come as like a download. And I'll have like a vague idea of like it's downloaded into my brain, and then I'll take like a day and do like a chapter by chapter list, and I'll usually have like a fairly like comprehensive list of all the chapters I'll need to write for the book, and that will give me like a vague outline. But that usually happens very quickly, and so there'll be parts within that I'll know, oh, that absolutely has to happen, that has to happen because all of this needs to land here. I'll understand that. But then there'll be parts that are like more malleable and I'll move those around if I need to, if it benefits the story. But yeah, for the most part, it does just feel like it just feels like a download. That's the best way to describe it.
Is there like a moment when that happens, or are you like sitting at your computer like, okay, I'm ready to work, or are you like on vacation in Bali and it's like, oh, this is where?
For the most part, it is usually all at once, and occasionally things will sort of like peel back. Where like the part with Magnolia, I was late diagnosed with ADHD, and I can really see now my little ADHD brain was like really like coming in strong when I was writing Magnolia, because there would be parts where I hadn't planned for certain things to land as perfectly as they did, but it was like, and my brain did. And it was like, it was there. It was already seated. I could just pick it up and it was already there.
I have the perfect quote from you about that exact same thing. I think I wrote it down. Let me see. Oh my gosh. I'm the biggest Powerball jackpot in the world, and the thoughts are the balls blowing around inside that glass thing, and then the mechanical arm rises up with a random ball and drops it down the slide into the forefront of my mind.
Do I say that?
You say
When
that.
did I say that?
Magnolia is having one of her like ADHD kind of spiraling moments.
I don't remember writing any of this book.
I believe that.
Which book is it?
This is 5.
Okay.
And I screenshotted that because I was like, that is ADHD.
Yeah.
Like just ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. Yeah. Ideas. And then
one comes.
Toop, toop.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So for the most part, it all is at once. And then every now and then there'll be like reveals that like were there before. Probably more with Never than any of the other books. There was like, I've spent such a long time in that story that has felt more like a pulling back the layers over time. But Magnolia and BJ, and then another book that I have up my sleeve that I wrote kind of like at once. That was like a genuine, like I went away and was like, I want to write this kind of book. And then I sat down on my bed, and as soon as I sat on my bed, it was like, and the whole story popped into my head. And I was like, I don't think I want to write that. Like, think of a different story.
Next.
And then I kept thinking for like 4 days, but that story just kept popping into my head. So I was like, I'll write it. And I wrote it in like 2 weeks. And that one.
Is it coming?
No one. Actually, this is like a exclusive. I've never talked about this before. Yeah.
Scooped. Let's go.
I think, yes. I mean, I haven't edited it, but my publishers have it.
Will it come before book 6?
Who knows what's happening?
Is book 6 written?
No, but I know what happens in book 6, and I
that as the reader,
I know
I'm not. Nothing about you stresses me out because you have delivered me a perfect world. But that I'm like, it's not even written.
I know,
because I know how long it takes for these things to get into my hands.
Well, surprisingly quick.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
God,
never.
Don't become a cookbook author.
No.
Jesus.
Never went into the publisher's hands in August, and it came out in December.
That's incredible.
So they were on a crunch.
Yeah.
But that was the same with, I mean, I think I signed my contract for my like UK World Rights Orion deal was like October 2022, and the Great Undoing came out December 2022. So they can do it. They just have to hustle.
Yeah, they just have to hustle.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed about you is that you very much do things your own way, not wanting to be categorized as a romance author, as a romance genre, because it really isn't. These books don't fall into any known genre. There's romance, there's, like we said, found family, coming of age. There's so much. You also, the way that you write your bios is like the most unhinged, fucking wonderful thing. Every bio is different for every book. And it's like a snapshot of where you are at the second moment in time. Yeah. You're like, I like eating sushi. Yeah. I'm pretty bummed out that I got this dog. Yeah. Don't be mad at me that I said that. He's not. Yeah, he can't read.
He doesn't know.
He can't read. Like they're completely.
I got in trouble for that one. They hated me on TikTok for that.
Of course you did. You can't say anything funny.
No, I know.
You can't say anything funny these days. Yeah. There's so many things that Magnolia especially is such a loose cannon that she says, and I'm like, Jessie is so brave. Like, she's so brave putting these words into somebody else's mouth even. Yeah.
I don't know. She's a fictional character.
She's a fictional character.
Like, I don't know. That's a bit crazy to me that people go so like
putting
nuts about that when it's a character. But anyway. Yeah. No, the bios, I'm always like surprised that they let me do them. Yes. But they have always let me do it.
Okay, so this is also like your covers are insane. There's 2 versions of the covers. The feet American?
The feet are like the mass market edition.
Okay.
But my US publishers haven't done the original covers, just my UK team.
So your
has.
US do the mass market.
US do mass market, and the UK also have like the mass market available, but the other one sells better. So
they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, because they're awesome.
Yeah.
So Jesse's covers are, how do we even describe them? Almost mural feeling.
I don't know. They were, when we thought of them, the Magnolia ones in particular, because they're linked. Emmy, my best friend, does the Magnolia ones, and
That's
then
so cool that she's your best friend.
I know, it's so cool. We had always sort of talked about it doing like Rule Britannia.
You got it. You got it.
Rule Britannia, which is like sort of like, what's the like Uncle Sam wartime thing? It's the British version of that. And so it's like that we picked the crest from the first one and like the big wartime flags, and then the second one was like a wartime ship, and we based it on like a real wartime ship. And then the last one is Lady Britannia. Like there's a famous statue in London where it's like Lady Britannia and the lion standing next to her with a shield and like a trident, which is what we did with Magnolia, with like her big face reveal, but with a wolf next to her.
Yeah, the face reveal. We see what. Yeah. And is that Magnolia?
That is Magnolia. We worked for a long time on like finding her face.
Is she a real human?
No, no. We just
she's
like,
art.
She's just made up. Yeah,
she's just beautiful art.
Yeah.
What is the wolf in this most recent cover? I like remember reading
about
a wolf. Yeah, what does it symbolize?
Oh, it's like Magnolia and BJ. That's like their animal counterpart. They talk about it in the first book.
Okay.
And she's a deer and he's a wolf. And like there's like Henry makes a joke about it. It's like very like it's a deep pocket reference.
I feel like now that I know these characters so well, I will go back and read from the beginning because, and at the risk of offending you in any way, I hope I don't, because as you know, I'm obsessed. When I read the first one and was telling people about it, I was like, you guys, I don't know what it is. They're addictive, but they're like toxic, and they're about this like socialite, and they're like fashion-y. And I don't even remember ever talking about like the deeper level that you get into with these characters, the beautiful writing. You are the queen of metaphors. And I don't even feel like I got into that because, and maybe it's
there's
because
other stuff around it.
There's so much, like book one is like so much of the glitz and the glam and the fashion, and we're really getting introduced to fashion as a huge part of this. And everybody who walks in the room, Magnolia knows exactly what they're wearing, and she says it. And so that's a huge part of it. And so the first book almost felt like a little bit like superficial fun to me, like almost like watching an episode of like Real Housewives or something, which I don't like. And I was like, what do I like about this book? And then I think you keep reading and you continue to know these characters.
Yeah.
And that's what I love so much about this series is that, like, I think the best example is in book one, BJ has cheated on his girlfriend, Magnolia, and we like don't know why, they were like so in love, and she finally gets out of him. She's like, why did you do it? This is years later, and he says, because I wanted to. And we're like, what? And you hate him for hurting this like fragile girl, and like you can't stand him. And then of course the onion continues to get, the layers continue to get peeled back. Yeah. But it's, I don't know. Knowing now what you know about.
Footsie under the table. I have such big feet.
Knowing now the way that people like respond to these characters and on TikTok, how they, freak out and blah, blah, blah. Was there anything that you were like scared to write? Like you were like, oh, they're going to hate that. What do you?
No, because I didn't know. It's really funny, actually.
You're like, I didn't know.
I didn't know. I don't even know if TikTok was a thing when I wrote Magnolia, so it was certainly not ever a conscious thought. But more so than that, it was never. I mean, I didn't know that there was a rule in whatever genre that people keep putting Magnolia and the universe in, that there was like a rule that cheating is worse than murder. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. Would it have affected the story? I'm going to say no.
Are you referring directly to Julian versus BJ?
Yeah, in that scenario.
Yeah. One of her love interests has cheated on her. Her next love interest, who's
the
women wanted her to end up with, is a gang lord who has murdered.
He's not.
Pity people.
People are like he's morally grey. I'm like, he's morally black. Guys. He's like he's not a healthy choice. I didn't know that, but
Interesting, yeah.
I don't know that it would have changed the story, but I will say that it has been an interesting time for the character of BJ to exist, and I have noticed probably that like there tends to be like an age divide as well between like who likes Julian, who likes BJ, and my best conclusion at this point is that perspective is a gift that time and age affords you. Mm-hmm. And I can't be angry at anyone for like not having that yet. Yeah. But there's something about that, like the depth of commitment that Magnolia and BJ have to one another that I didn't realize is something that people of a certain age would cling to. Yeah. And people that are maybe a little bit younger wouldn't understand. That wasn't something I was aware of. It was just like, to me, Magnolia and BJ are almost like Shakespearean. Like they're sort of like this tortured, fated couple that were always going to find their way back to each other. That's what I was writing.
Like even something like cheating can't get between them. Like
it got between them, but they'll figure it that they're magnetic. And I didn't. It's been a interesting cultural observation for me, just with like I love talking to my readers, and I have just kind of over time noticed like a bit of an age divide between like where people lie and if they're like where they're wanting her to end up with. But yeah, I certainly didn't know. I really didn't know about the Julian.
So older people with a bit more perspective are Team BJ.
Yeah, that tends to be the case. And I don't even think it's like necessarily, I don't mean that to sound like condescending.
No.
But what I think it is like, my husband's never cheated on me, but I am committed to a life with him. Yeah. Regardless. Like I love him as the person. Yeah. I'm very committed to him regardless of what's going on around him. Yeah. And I was writing Magnolia and BJ from like that place of like you have a person, you're committed to them. And I don't know necessarily, even statistically, that that's like what society is doing now. It's a bit like one and done. Like, oh, you fucked up, you're out.
Yeah, you're out.
I don't ascribe to that anyway. But Magnolia and BJ especially, I wrote it to like that I'm writing to that sort of commitment, I guess. But I didn't know that I wasn't like a conscious thing. Yeah. It was just.
I mean, you also, you throw in the lines like, why did you cheat? Because I wanted to. Mm-hmm. You throw in a line like, why did you cheat? Because you wanted to. Because I wanted to. And then that just the people who are those one and done, like you fuck up once and you're out. Yeah. They read that and they can't even, we unpeel so much more and they're like.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The wanted to, that was actually super interesting because I knew all of it when I was writing it. Like you get the clues of the context throughout the first book. When you go back, you see he actually talks about it, but you just don't see it. It's all shrouded. And
see, I need to go back and reread. Like, I can't wait.
But because I wanted to, I never meant for it to be as like inciting as people really found it to be. To me, it was like I don't know, the series in general is like a real observation of like the human experience. And even though what he says isn't actually like all the way true, it was kind of like the truest thing he could offer her in that moment. Yep. And yeah, I mean, the BJ stuff has always really surprised me, and kind of it's made me sad, not in a protective way of him, because I don't feel like I need to I'm not writing it for anyone in particular. I'm really they live in my head. I'm just telling their story. It doesn't really feel like skin on my back, skin off my back, whatever it is. Yeah. But it kind of makes me sad because it makes me be like, are we okay? Are we good if this is he's a pretend person and he's so mad at this pretend person, and you would really you're going to die on a hill that it would be better for this girl to date someone who's a murderer.
Who's a literal
he's been on the run for multiple murders. You are going to die on the hill that she would be better off with him. Are we okay?
Because someone who cheated one time and has spent the rest of his life
making it up to her, loves her, would do anything for her.
Oh, hey, I have a question. In book 5, close your ears if you haven't read it yet and you care. I do feel like if you are listening and you haven't read the series yet, you can listen to all of this and you're going to black it out anyway. So go on. In book 5, we discover that Hamish, BJ's father, who is always kind of like a ball buster of BJ, BJ's kind of like an Instagram influencer, doesn't really care about business, and Hamish is always on top of him about this, just kind of riding him.
Yeah.
We find out that he has cheated on his wife.
That was a surprise to me.
Okay. And they have had this
idealized
marriage that everyone looks up to. They're perfect. We saw no cracks, no chinks in the armor. Mm-hmm. Why was that important to write in?
Yeah, I mean, that really took me as a surprise. That wasn't part of the plan. That was one of my oh, whoa, that was a big swerve. I didn't see that coming.
It's so funny to hear you talk about this as if it's almost like you're like a conduit for this.
I really felt like that. When that was kind of I was writing that chapter and I didn't know that was coming. And then that presented itself and I was like, oh, shit. Whoa,
of
that
course.
was wild. I can see now why it was important was because I think BJ had always put his dad on a pedestal and it humanized him. Yeah. And that was what he needed to kind of probably even as the last step of forgiving himself and moving on was, seeing his dad as capable of making bad choices too. Yeah. Because I guess that's the thing in the series is they all fuck up. All of them are fuck ups. Yes. And all of them get better and learn and they go to therapy and they figure themselves out and some of them do. Some of them are still still doing some silly things.
The therapy scenes in book 5 I loved. Magnolia, all we have wanted this entire time is for Magnolia and BJ to sit down with a freaking therapist and work it out, and we finally get there. You speak so knowledgeably about therapy and trauma bonds and all of these things that they went through together, grief even, getting past grief. Where did all of that knowledge come from? Did you do a lot of research? Did you work with a board certified therapist?
It
seems so, it's so, it felt real.
Thank you. Have been in therapy on and off for a very long time and then read some books kind of around cheating and affairs, and I love Esther Perel. I think she's brilliant. And then
So as research for this, you just read some books about cheating, affairs, just to kind of get the language and the feelings.
Yeah, but I kind of knew where it needed to go.
Yeah.
I knew where they were and I knew where they needed to be. And there's really only so many ways forward. You had to go through. I knew that part. You can't go around, can't avoid. It's just a through.
Can't go over it, can't go under it.
Yeah,
you have to go through it.
Exactly. And so there were a couple of ways that could look, but I knew that they needed to go to therapy. The relationship stuff, it was a combination of my going to therapy, reading about it, and then just I've been married now 10 years, so I just have some common sense there as well. And the grief stuff is like my childhood sweetheart he committed suicide when I was quite young. So I feel like I explored grief very early on in life.
Yeah.
And then just got really kind of like familiar with it. Like it was I got very good at like the sadness thing, but really explored it in like a thorough way. And that sounds peculiar. It became this place, especially with writing, that it was like I know how to access it now very quickly. But I felt like when I was a teenager, I kind of went to this land and mapped it out and like knew where it was. And I would set up a tent there sometimes, but I would never live there. And I would know how to I'd know I'd need to leave it, but I could always go back to it. And it was always very like beneficial for like accessing this sort of like raw emotions that come through in the books. So yeah, that's the grief part of it was a little bit based on my stuff. And then also I honestly think like as like LA as this is going to sound, I'm definitely like a massive empath. And so there's like, there was just elements of like, I feel all the things that my characters are feeling. And so when Magnolia was going through that, kind of like applying my younger grief experience now through like an adult lens on her situation.
I want to read you because I also pulled a quote about grief that you may have blacked out writing, but is so beautiful that I want to read it, having just talked about grief. Magnolia is on the path to recovery. This is towards the end of the book.
Okay.
Close your ears if you haven't read, but her sister died tragically the book before, and this whole book is kind of her
dealing with
that. Grief, this is Magnolia's POV. Grief is funny like that, how it ebbs and flows from you. It's not corked like champagne, a bottle that bursts open, fizzes all out until it's empty. It's more like a kind of weather, a kind of wind. Sometimes it's these horrible gusts that you feel undeniably, hurts your ears, makes you close your eyes, chills you right down to your bones. Some days it's a pleasant breeze that blows across your face, and it's neither sad or bad. It's just some kind of unspeakable tenderness.
I do remember writing that one only because someone tagged me in it 2 days ago, and I didn't remember writing it. And I was like, what's that? Where is that?
That about sums it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love the it's not corked like champagne, a bottle that bursts open and fizzes out until it's empty.
Yes. It is anyone that hasn't gone through a grief doesn't understand the kind of like the flux of it. Like grief is so non-linear.
Yeah.
Any kind of loss is very non-linear, and I think that people really love for things to be linear and for things to make sense, but grief just doesn't make sense. And the way that it like comes out of you and the way that it changes you, you just don't know what it's going to do.
Magnolia would be like having a great day. She'd, go to work, go shopping, have a great lunch, and then she would remember that Bridget was still dead, or that Bridget was dead, and it would like, totally knock her off her feet.
It's that's the craziest part of death or any kind of loss, I guess, is that part where you have to remember like that how many times they die to you because you have to recall it, where like, because life goes on and then there'll be this inevitable point in a day where you're like, oh God, like that it comes back to you, and not in the way where like it sounds so weird if you haven't experienced, but anyone who has experienced it is like, oh, of course, like,
And the guilt over having forgotten for a moment.
Yeah.
Over having been happy for a moment. Yeah. Then that person would never want you to feel, and yet you do.
Yeah.
You, like I said earlier, are the metaphor queen, and that is the thing that, so I'm an audio gal because I have 3 small kids.
Yeah.
And so audiobooks have allowed me to
Keep reading.
Yeah. And like love reading again. So I think I listened to books 1 through 3 on audio, but then I like needed them. I needed my eyeballs to be able to see these words. And so I've read them on, Kindle since then. And the metaphors are prolific. They are profound, and they are often. Your writing is, some people, I recommend a lot of books because I read a lot, and some people will be like, will DM me and be like, recommend a book. I don't like anything too floral. Like that's like a thing that people will be like, I don't like florally writing. And I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you not like yourself? Yeah. Like what you're
don't
writing
read my books if you
is,
don't like
and first of all, don't read anything by Jessie. Your books are floral. They are descriptive. I thought, I mean, again, you've already admitted that you black out while you're reading a little bit, but I would love just to take me inside your mind a little bit. I would love to understand. I'm going to read you a couple of my favorites, and I want to know, I know you kind of sit down and you like power write these, but do you have moments where you're like at the grocery store and you see something and it reminds you of something? You're at a funeral, you see something that reminds you. So I'm going to read some to you and just, we'll just see. And if you don't, just be like, next. Okay. This is a classic, book 1. He laughs, and for some reason it sounds like the doorbell of the home I grew up in.
Oh, I actually know exactly where I was when that one came. Yeah. I was walking down. I was in Sydney, Australia, at a shopping, like a very small shopping centre where our grocery store was, and I was walking down the ramp, and it just dropped into my head, and I pulled out my phone, wrote it down.
Is that a download? Or is that just a
I would say
drop
that's
in?
a download. Like it was, not yet. I'd say, just like it was like a little quick email.
That exact line, or like called something doorbell home?
No, just the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you okay? He asks, arms open, and I walk into them how I always have, the same way you walk into a church, a bit broken and looking for salvation.
Oh, I don't remember writing it, but I write my most natural 2 ways of writing is dialogue or metaphor. So it's just, that's really most of my writing. And there's like parts from some of the books that are literally like deposits from my teenage journal. Like that was just how I wrote.
This is exactly the intel I was looking for.
And so
you wrote your teenage journal in metaphor.
Yeah.
That is so
painful. I don't know.
Sweet and beautiful, and like you're just exactly where you're supposed to be.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some parts of it that are just like literally from that to that. Like off the top of my head, there's one about, I think it's maybe in The Long Way Home, where one of them, Magnolia, probably says something about like the years whistling around their ankles and the trees rain like orange and regret or something. I don't know. That was like straight from my journal. Yeah. There are a couple of ones like that.
Do you have a bunch of your old teenage journals still? Like I have nothing from my youth.
No, not really.
Yeah, just these select.
Select pieces. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You won't remember this one because it's a small one, but it's so good. It's Magnolia has just found out that she was not a desired pregnancy.
Oh, yes, sure.
And she's talking about her sister, and she says she was planned, wanted, not a bear trap on the ankle of his life. I just thought, holy shit.
Yeah, sad.
A bear trap on the ankle. Oh my God, no, that whole revelation that was.
Yeah, that was the Harley Magnolia storyline.
Harley is Magnolia's father.
He took it out. Like that took the wind out of me in this book. Like that was an exhausting experience.
Exhausting. It was exhausting to read. I can't imagine having to write that to somebody who's already about, write that to. I'm like, you wrote it to her. You wrote it on her.
Yeah.
Having to do that to somebody who like you love, and you talk about how Magnolia is you in many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a of all of the books, that one was the hardest to write for sure.
Yes.
And the most costly personally for me and emotionally.
Ooh, tell me more about that. What does that look like for you? You have 2 young kids. You're trying to get this like really a lot of difficult stuff.
Yeah.
And you very much embody these books. It sounds like, I mean, Magnolia is you. You are like this conduit for these characters.
I wish I had an answer. We were laughing about this last week, my friend and I, because I did a question, like an AMA on Instagram, and someone asked me about like what was my process for writing the first 4 books and had it changed much in writing the 5th one because of the publishing deal and whatever.
Right.
And I can so vividly remember writing the first 4 books, and I wrote out this answer, and then I went to write about the 5th book, and I ended up deleting the whole answer because I was like, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything. I have absolutely zero recollection of writing Into the Dark. I don't have I have a memory of sending it off to my team last July. I remember sitting outside in Ireland under like the outdoor area of my in-laws' house, getting a text from one of my agents and her being like, oh my God, it's a perfect ending for them. I don't remember anything before that. It's literally my first memory of.
Oh my.
I don't know.
Book 8, Unpacking Jesse's Trauma from writing book 5.
I don't remember it at all. To a point where that's why I deleted the answer to the girl. I panicked because I was like, what the fuck happened to me? Like,
You're like, am I okay?
Am I good? No. Nope. I'm not good.
It obviously dragged up some memories of your childhood loss, of your, childhood love. Do you relate to Magnolia's like sort of family at all? Like, where does her family drama relationship come from?
I don't know my biological father, so that would definitely feed into it.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't in many ways. Too. Yeah.
And the stuff with the Magnolia's like childhood BJ relationship is very based on like our like childhood sweethearty vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it's all a fictionalized version. My parents aren't like Grammy award winning whatever.
Your mom's not a 90s supermodel?
No, crazy. No.
You are wearing a YSL sweater. So
I am. That's
we've got
true.
that.
I bought it myself. No, that's a hard question that I'll tell you about later off air.
Yeah. Okay, we've done metaphors. Oh, okay. This is my last. Well, no, actually, I have like 50,000 questions that I wanted to talk to you about. But here's the last one that I'll ask about Jesse's workflow. Mapping out a 7-book series, especially one where the sort of crux of the plot line is so dependent on memories. Do you keep, or is this all just in your head, which I feel like is going to be the answer, and I'm going to be like, how? Do you keep like an Excel of like, okay, Christian's timeline. Here's when his, younger sister died. Here's when his dad went dark. Do you keep like a timeline so that when you're writing a memory?
Yeah. I do have a timeline, but it does exist in my head. I have a timeline for specific dates because there's parts of it that we would call Magnolia math, and that's like very specific. And because the readers are so detail oriented, I've always had to be very like,
yes. Oh, they would rip you up.
Yeah.
Tear you to shreds.
I have to make sure everything's aligned. So I do have a timeline for Magnolia math purposes.
Okay.
But for the most part, have like at this point it feels a bit like a spider web in my brain, and I can be like, oh, that's up there. I'm like, oh, that's up there. But yeah.
I'm like picturing that gif of like the detective in his office,
that's
moving
me.
things.
Yeah. That's what my brain looks like.
That's
for sure.
you. Okay, so first we're going to answer some closing questions, and then I'm going to grill you and see how much information I can get out of you. And that is for the Magnolia Parks girls only. For the rest of you, come back once you've read the books, because otherwise we're going to spoil some things. Okay, so first of all, I need to know what you're really into right now.
Okay. I've been reading, not reading. I've been watching a lot of space, like, documentaries. I'm into that right now. That's like my brain switch off.
I'm so glad that was your answer.
Really?
Because that was one of my questions that I didn't get to. You talk a lot
about space
and like the universe.
I do love the universe.
Sort of unpeeling back one universe in big ways and in really big ways, like where I'm like having to reread the paragraph, and then also in small ways like Julian and Magnolia. They're kind of where I think it's book 3 or 4, and he's like, could you have loved me? And
like in another life.
In another life. You're not a fantasy reader, right?
No, but I am a science reader. Okay. I don't read. I always feel terrible when people are like, "What? Give me a book rack." I'm like, "You don't want my book rack." I don't read fiction, really. I only read nonfiction, and it's usually history. It's usually science.
History of science.
Just like history. Like I like it. I studied history at university, and then I love science. In another life, I would have been a geologist.
It makes
100%. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
My husband's like, no one's ever said that. I'm like, I
said it.
Say it.
I just said it. Okay, no, it makes a ton of sense because so many of your metaphors go deep in space, like space-time continuum, universe, and I'm like, where is she pulling this from?
Yeah,
That's why. Okay, so what's the coolest space documentary that we all need to, or space movie, space documentary?
Well, the best space movie is obviously Interstellar.
The best movie ever. I think I've watched it 15 times.
I watch it every 3 months. I watched it yesterday.
It's a flawless movie.
Unbelievable. I love it. Like, it's perfect. Documentary-wise, there is one called, The Cosmos it's like the continuation of, there was one in the 80s, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. I want to say that's his name.
Not my world.
He does like an updated version of it. And in Australia, it used to be on Netflix, but I don't know where it's on here. I watched it recently on here, but I forget. There's too many streamers now. That's amazing.
Cosmos.
Yeah.
The updated version.
The Cosmos. Yeah. It's really, it's great. And it really just takes you through everything.
Okay, I'm gonna watch.
It's really good.
I feel like it's gonna take me inside your brain a little bit.
Yeah, probably.
No, I noticed. I feel like especially with this book, so much like sort of space and
I love it.
Ripples in time.
Yes.
Okay. What are you out on right now?
It's funny. When you sent me your sample questions so I could think of these answers in advance, your example was wifey.
Okay.
Oh my God. I fucking hate. I hate wifey. I hate hubby. I hate Instagram. Your partner in an Instagram bio. These things.
Wait, what's your partner?
Like when people mention they tag
wifey,
wifey to blah blah. But even just having your partner in your Instagram bio is unnecessary.
Be your own human.
I don't like it at all.
Yes. Okay. Well, can I tell you? Hubby has always been my example for when I send it to guests. So out on that. For example, the word hubby, but I changed it to wifey for you because Magnolia has a little shit fit.
She hates it. Wifey, thank you. Who wouldn't?
It's so bad.
Yeah, I hate it so much.
It's so bad.
Hate wifey, hate hubby.
Hate Instagram.
It's just not for me. Yeah. I don't. It's
not for us.
Yeah. It could be for other people.
Yeah,
it's
we're
not
out
for me.
on it.
I'm out on it.
If you do it, if you like to call your husband your hubby, thank goodness you have something you enjoy. It's just not what we enjoy.
I don't know why it does feel like a personal assault for me when I hear it. I'm like, oh, we feel incompatible immediately. I don't know why. It makes me be like, oh, no.
Yes.
It's just like my brain. It's I don't know if it's like some sort of like this. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. But And then actually I don't like seeing
I'm so excited already.
I don't like to see exercise updates on Instagram, especially I find it to be of a jump scare when I'm not expecting it, and then there's suddenly
And is an exercise update a body check update?
I don't want to see it. I'm glad for you.
So literally so glad for you. You're getting strong.
It's good.
Getting healthy.
I don't want to see it personally. It's most of the time an affront.
Yes.
Just because I'm I wasn't expecting to see skin. Actually, I will.
much body.
Okay, I'll be direct. I don't like to see it from men. I really don't like to. Women, I'm I've seen women's bodies 1,000 times. It doesn't.
Don't they call it gains or something?
Yeah, I don't want to see it. I really don't. I don't like it. I don't like it when because my husband will take the photos. He would never post them, thank God. But he would take photos on his phone. Even then, I'm I don't want to see it. It's just let's just get to the good part.
100%.
I don't need to see it.
My husband and I were long distance for a very long time. And there were certain moments where he would, inquire whether I wanted a dick pic. And I was like, in no fucking world do I want a picture of your penis to pop up on my phone. So much skin that I'm uninterested in.
Yeah.
I'll see you in 9 months. He was in the military, so he was really gone.
Right.
I'm no, nothing about.
No, it's I don't know if that's
that.
I don't know. What
I really
it is.
took that from exercise pics to dick pics.
I get it because I would be I don't.
It's not something I'm into.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not into it for I don't think I would want to see it if a Hemsworth was doing if a Hemsworth was
100%.
posting a photo of themselves in a mirror after working out at the gym, I would still be put it away. I don't need to see it. If it's just Joe, I'm stop it, Joe. I don't want that.
Yes.
I just want to see
100%. I know.
Yeah.
There was.
And Instagram does it. Too many people are doing it. Yeah. I'm why? What is this?
Yeah, it's all over the place. We get it.
Yeah. You're on your search feed and poof.
Yeah.
And my husband must be using it because I'm not exercising. So the algorithm has gotten crossed because.
Did your husband get on your Instagram and poke around?
Well, he must do because I have golf.
Mine does.
And I have photos of men exercising. Yes. And I'm I don't exercise.
Yes. So I liked that you admitted that your husband, you didn't say so many words, but my husband is very much my CFO. I would say I'm the CEO, but begrudgingly. I would like to simply do my tasks and not have to be the CEO of Caro Chambers LLC, but I am. But he's very much my CFO. And you're saying that your husband, Binja, I'll call him that, he's my personal friend now. He was tracking your Kindle numbers and stuff. And my husband tracks, he goes on I have a subscription-based newsletter, paid subscription, and he goes on how many news, every single, twice a day.
Sweet.
My Instagram, okay, 170,000 followers. I'm I don't care. Why do you care? Yeah. They're our fucking gigolos.
I know. Someone has to do it.
Because
I'm not doing it.
I'm not doing it. Oh my God. Tax season. He was I don't want to be your CFO. I was well, you are. So leave it alone. Okay. My newsletter, aforementioned newsletter, is called What to Cook When You Don't Feel Like Cooking. Mm-hmm. What do you cook when you don't feel like cooking?
Okay. I'm scared to say this to you because you're obviously an excellent cook.
Nope. This is what we're here for.
I love McDonald's, so that would probably be my go-to.
Great answer. What could be better than freaking McDonald's French fries?
I love
nothing.
A quarter pounder so much.
So good.
But if I'm cooking something and I don't really want to be cooking, the mindless go-to meals I have are I can do really good chicken drumsticks in an air fryer, and this makes me sound like I'm a better cook than I am, but it was just something I really cared about as a teenager, so perfected at a young age, is a lamb roast.
Oh my God.
But lamb is very really a common meat in Australia.
Okay,
so we
true.
all have
it's
lamb.
Ground meat. It's ground burger meat.
It's it's not ground, it would be
No, I mean, our common thing
the way
here
that you have
with
with
steak.
Beef.
Yeah.
Steak would be as common in Australia as lamb would be.
Yes.
It's very regular. A lamb roast is maybe you're only doing it on a Sunday night or whatever. I just really loved it. And no one else would cook it for me. So I was I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Yes.
And so I just started doing it as a teenager. And now it's a very mindless meal for me to make. So that is, but it's hard to find here.
Yes. We
So
only
it's-
kind of do it in the spring.
Yeah.
We like associate it with Easter.
Yeah. It's hard to find, but I'm made like a lamb rack a couple of nights ago because I wanted something mindless to cook. So that was like, I guess.
Just a mindless lamb route.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. I'm gonna develop a recipe in your honor. Call it mindless lamb roast.
Please do.
It's so easy that Jesse can do it. Okay. If you have not read the series and you are not interested in spoilers, buzz off. Okay? Thanks for coming, but get out of here. Okay. Now we're going to ask some specific questions.
Okay.
We're going to see how much we can get out of you.
Oh, God. Okay.
Are you ready? I wish that you were drinking wine. Okay. Which character, male or female, do you think is the best at sex? Like, who's the best lay? And then I'm going to give you my answer. But I'm going to tell you next.
Did you say, am I answering male or female or male and female?
Ooh, I kind of want you to tell me both. Give me a male and a female.
Male, I'm going to say, I feel like my instinct says Christian.
Okay.
And then for female, my answer is affirmed Daisy.
Is who?
Daisy. Firm Daisy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my male answer was first Christian,
Mm-hmm.
but then I decided that if Daisy keeps going back for more with Romeo,
Oh, interesting.
there
Yeah, I
must
feel
be
like he would be
something
good.
wonderful happening
Yeah.
there. And he's like so aloof.
Yeah, he's
We
very
don't really
aloof.
know what his deal is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Romeo.
Okay.
But again, you created
Yeah.
these people. So to be
I've
clear,
actually not had sex with either of them, though, to clarify.
Well, you've had more sex with them than any of the rest of us have. Okay. You said it earlier that the box set is 5 people. Was Paley ever in the box set?
Yeah, Paley and Perry would have been.
They were
in the
all
box
in.
set. They
So
were.
it
in
was
the
a
box set.
7-person box set.
Yeah, and then it strips down when they are kind of like
when
left
they-
behind.
Is
yeah.
Tora now in the box set?
Yeah, I would now say, well, it's tricky actually. This is an interesting question. Because I feel like now beyond me in the readership of everything, there's like box set has been conflated to like just my characters. Like the hates are now people would be like, oh, the box set. They're not.
They're not.
But I get why they are.
Yeah,
whatever. To me, the traditional box set of like where the universe sits at now would be the Hems, the Valentines, Magnolia, and Tora.
Okay. Tora's in.
Yeah.
I
For sure.
love her.
I love her too. She's fantastic.
She's wonderful.
Yeah.
Will we see another wedding by the end of this series?
Oh, I can't answer that. That's a crazy question.
Will we see another death by the end of this series?
Yes.
I wish I'd been more specific, but now I know you're not going to answer anything more specific. Okay, will the next 2 Daisy books be all triple POV again? Will we get Daisy, Christian, and Julian?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It is funny, actually.
Thank
I've had a lot of
God.
questions about the Daisy books. This last week, it's been brought to my attention that people are like, you don't even like Daisy. You hate Daisy. I'm like, what?
Excuse me.
You're crazy.
Excuse me. Why do people put these things on you?
I don't know. Apparently, it's like a thing on Twitter where they're like, she doesn't even like Daisy. Someone sent me a bunch of screenshots where people on Twitter were like saying I hate Daisy. And I will say this. Where's the camera? Where's the
red button, red light.
Okay. I will say that I don't hate Daisy. And if I'm putting off writing it for any reason, it's because the amount of pain I know I'm going to have to put that girl through in these next books.
You're going to black out
I don't want to
so
do it.
hard.
I don't want to do it. So all those people saying I hate Daisy, and I don't.
And I don't. Thank you for that great
welcome.
answer.
Yeah.
You're going to black out so hard again.
Yeah.
You can't even remember writing book 5 for poor Magnolia. You have to write 2 of them now. Dear God, it's going to be hard. Okay. This is kind of a funny one, but do you think we'll get to know Jonah any better? I feel like he's the one of the box set. I guess I don't know Tora particularly well, but because she's a female, I know her. I know her. Do you think we'll get to know Jonah better? He's really not a good brother.
Jonah's a terrible brother. But
see, even that, I'm like, oh yeah, he is. But
Jonah's a bad brother, but Henry's a great brother.
yeah, he helps beat Christian up. That wasn't nice.
He wasn't nice.
Yeah,
You will learn more about Jonah for sure in book 6.
in book 6.
But I will say
Because
again,
they're getting something dodgy
something's
going
happening.
on behind
something
the scenes.
does happen in book 6.
And it happened
It
coinciding.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yes. To me, the books went like this. Like 1 was the world's about to converge. 2 was an absolute crossover.
Yeah.
And 3 is like they're now separating again.
Okay.
So if that gives anyone any clues to anything.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What is Madeline's deal? Madeline?
Madeline.
What's her deal?
She's
Doesn't she like Magnolia?
I think she's just like young and competitive, actually. In my head, she's like quite pretty. And also, you know how some girls get like strange about their brother? Like
but not
their older
the Valentine
brother.
girls. They love her.
No, I know, but not, but she's probably like found an identity in it. Like that's what it feels like to me when a girl really like makes their brother their identity.
Yeah.
And then that's their thing. And she's kind of like that about it. That's Madeline's deal.
My darling sister-in-law, who I adore, my husband was like, president of the school, Navy SEAL, and he just like very much had his own identity. And she was the little sister, and she used to dress up like him for Halloween. That's so sweet.
So cute.
It's so weird.
What the heck?
Caroline, I love you. Caroline is, but she loves me, so she's not
good.
Madeline.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay. You might be mad about this one.
Okay. Good.
When the fuck are Magnolia and BJ going to realize that Daniela is a bodyguard?
I don't know. I do because there's
I can't.
I don't know. Magnolia lives in denial, though. That's her.
She lives in Never Never Land.
She does. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
I mean, I love it. It's actually it's not crazy. It's super well written. How they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
She's just like this.
Well, I think
funny personal assistant.
Magnolia is like so like out of it.
Head in the sky.
Yeah. That she couldn't see it right now anyway.
She doesn't even believe that Julian's a bad guy. So why would he have a bodyguard?
Why would she need a
her?
bodyguard? Yeah, she doesn't need one. Yeah.
BJ. Sweet BJ just hasn't gotten there yet. Okay. The last line of the book.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Magnolia and BJ are discussing their future. They've just gotten some life-changing news.
Yeah.
And BJ says, and this is the last line of the Magnolia series, "I'll make it pretty fun, but, period." The entire last chapter, I was weeping, sobbing. Their vows were so beautiful. Everything was perfect. I then ended up reading this line so many times, and I was like, what does it mean? What is she saying? What is but?
There is no, it's like I'll make it pretty fun, but there's actually,
what does
this
it
is funny.
mean?
This is I had wondered, someone sent me a message about this last week, and it was like 2 best friends were reading the book in tandem, and they realized that is BJ quoting himself in the first book on their very first date. And he says to her, when he asks her to go out, and she says, I can't, it's my grandparents' anniversary. And he says, well, I'll like be my date. And she's like, it'll be pretty boring. And he says, I'll make it pretty fun, but.
Did you do that? Was that
that was
of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes you black out. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the line.
I'll make it pretty fun, but so it was his opening line and his closing line.
Yeah.
God, I'm glad I asked.
What a guy.
What a guy. We love BJ. So I feel like I went on such a journey with BJ.
Yeah.
As did everyone except for you,
Yeah.
who knew that he was going to be good from the start.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was into book 1. I was like, and I was 100% Team Julian.
Yeah, you were?
I was Team Ganglord. I mean, I'll say I always was
I
team.
love Julian.
I was always team wherever these books take me. I trust them. But like, God, he's such a flawed character, and I love where we get at the end, which is that like his entire life purpose is like loving her and creating this life with her. And like, actually, no, he's not a piece of shit Instagram influencer. He just like has dedicated his life to love and to friendship and her instead
he's a
of
good
like,
guy.
like
He's really evolved.
he's really evolved.
It was a painful journey for me to know what the trajectory of his character was going to be and kind of like watch the assassination of it happen.
Assassination is a good word.
Yeah, people really love to hate him.
Yes.
But I mean, he has always been what he was always going to be.
Yeah.
And it was always his trajectory. It was always the plan. I always knew that like his chaotic way of loving Magnolia would eventually actualize into like a functional way of loving Magnolia. But yeah, no, it was it's been a real journey for him, for sure.
I know.
Yeah.
I am sad that their book is over, but I can't wait to get, maybe we will, maybe we won't, like glimpses of where they are.
Yeah, I've had a lot of messages in the last couple of weeks being like, it's the last one, I can't believe it's the last one. And my response to everyone has always been like, no, we want it to be. Yeah. Like we want that to be the last one because the only way that the book keeps going is if something goes wrong, and we don't want it to go wrong.
We saw what happened at the end of book 1, the end of book 3.
Yeah,
like, be happy.
We just want this, like, they've worked hard for their piece. We want them to have it.
You know what I think also, like the, I don't know, controversy or the reason that people are so passionate about these books comes from? Many of your readers are romance readers because this does get lumped into there. And we are happy ever after girls. We are like, the book ends, we get our happy ever after. The book ends, we get a happy, and ma'am, that is not what you deliver. We just got our first one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And we loved it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about number 6
I know. I was
now.
just thinking, did Daisy and Christian ever end happy? Was book, no.
Does it end happy in 6?
Oh, this is, you have to tell. Does book 6 end with a happy ever after?
It ends with something. I know exactly how it ends. I don't know.
I'm going to put devil horns on your head. Make a reel out of that. It ends with something. All right. Thank you for coming, for braving LA traffic to talk to me about you and this fabulous universe that you have created for all of us. We love it.
Thank you for having me.
When people send you hate mail about Magnolia not ending up with a gang lord, it's only because they love her so much.
Yeah,
they think they know best. But they don't. These characters have their own lives.
I hope that they don't end up with gang lords too. That's my real hope.
That's a good. Yeah, you're like, are you okay?
That's my worry.
Yeah, girls, don't date gang lords.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Just read some you know what these books did to me, and then we'll really sign off, is that between finishing book 4 and then having like the book hangover of a lifetime and waiting for book 5, I was ending on a Julian Hates
high.
Yeah. I went deep mafia romance.
Oh, did you? I've never read one.
Of course you haven't. You're not a romance reader. They're fun.
Okay.
They are, if you think that Julian Gray is morally black, like, these people are black as dirt.
Wow. Okay.
And you're like so into it.
Oh, interesting.
It's confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe that's also swaying.
I think that probably is swaying these people.
It's a whole.
But I didn't know that either.
Yeah, you don't know
I
that.
didn't know
because you're
that.
just over here like watching documentaries about space.
I'm reading, the last book I read was Stephen Hawking book. I don't know what you guys are talking about when they're like, that's not what's
That's
happening.
not
I'm like,
how it happens.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is just what this book is. Yeah, I think that's what makes it so special and so addictive is that it doesn't follow any script.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.